Why does life place before us someone who makes every cell in the body vibrate, but then rips that same person away before we can hold them? Why, among billions, does the one who seems sculpted inside our chest appear, but can never stay there? And if the pain of loving someone we cannot have is actually a key the universe uses to open what we hide even from ourselves? Carl Jung, that cartographer of the human soul, believed that nothing in our desire is accidental. What you resist persists. And perhaps without realizing it, you have resisted yourself so much that life had to send you someone impossible to tear apart that denial. You know, we get used to swallowing the hunger to be more. We pretend we do not feel, we do not desire, we do not dream so high, until a glance, a presence, a brief touch awakens everything at once. And then you discover loneliness was not the absence of the other. It was the absence of yourself. Today, I am not going to promise you easy advice. I will not lie by saying it will hurt less. But if you stay here in this silent corner of the night with me, I will whisper truths that perhaps no one has had the courage to tell you. You did not lose anyone. You found yourself. She arrived as one who asked for no permission. Perhaps you were not even ready. The truth is, no one ever is. A crossing of glances, a silly detail in an ordinary conversation, a touch that never happened, and just like that, an absence is born that becomes larger than any presence. You try to deny it, rationalize it, laugh at yourself saying, it's just nonsense, it will pass. But deep down, very deep down, something inside you knows it will not pass, because it is not about that person, it is about you. Carl Jung would say that each soul carries secret holes, voids that no routine fills, that no domesticated love reaches. And then one day life sends someone who touches precisely that hole. You call it love, you call it desire, you call it destiny, but you are only you remembering the parts you let die. You do not desire the other. You desire who you are when you look at them. You desire the courage, the easy laughter, the fire that runs through your veins. You desire to feel that, even if only for seconds, you are alive in a way you cannot explain to anyone. That impossible person is actually your cruelest mirror, but also the most sacred. They show you everything you could be if you were not so cowardly, if you had not settled for crumbs of love, crumbs of life, crumbs of courage. They did not come to be yours. They came to be your warning. Wake up. There is still a fire beneath this tired skin, and I know it is unfair. How can you bear having seen the light and then having to return to the darkness? How do you keep breathing with that hole burning in your chest? How do you sleep knowing there is a laugh, a voice, an embrace that will never live in your routine? But who said they had to stay? Some presences are so great that human love cannot contain them. We want to put them in the bed on Sunday mornings in our coffee. But this type of encounter does not fit in normality. It fits only in the soul. And that is why it hurts, and that is why it liberates. You cannot possess what came to remind you of the infinity that inhabits you. You can try to force conversations, beg for a chance, humiliate yourself, hoping to transform destiny into coexistence. But a part of you knows it will not work, and it should not. Because if it did, if that impossible person became routine, you would settle again. You would extinguish the fire to fit into a relationship, into a trivial living together, into a domesticated life. And everything divine in that encounter would die, suffocated by the everyday. So perhaps it is time to stop fighting what has no solution. Instead of asking the universe to give you back the impossible, ask yourself, what did this impossible person come to show me about myself? Think, what is it in them that makes me vibrate? Is it the courage? Is it the smile that asks for no permission? Is it their way of speaking truth without fear? Now look at yourself in the mirror. Where is that in me? Why did I kill it? Why do I live in such fear of being exactly that? Jung said that whoever looks outward dreams, but whoever looks inward awakens. That impossible person is your invitation to stop dreaming and awaken to yourself once and for all. You are not going to forget, and you should not want to. That absence now is your flame. Whenever it hurts, remember, I am capable of feeling this. Therefore, I am capable of living up to this. The impossible person is not your other half. They are the announcement of your wholeness. So as nostalgia tears you apart, embrace it. As the memory tightens, smile sideways. As your chest burns, breathe. You are alive, and this pain is your certificate of existence. Let it burn. It is burning everything that is not you. Have you ever truly looked at yourself in the mirror? I am not talking about that quick reflection in the bathroom when you fix your hair and pretend everything is fine. I am talking about looking into the depths of your own eyes until you feel ashamed of everything you hide in there. That is how Jung saw the human psyche, a mirror that does not lie, even when you insist on lying to yourself. When someone impossible crosses your path, Jung would say, do not run away, observe. That person is not just flesh, voice, and pretty eyes. They are a symbol, a projection. They are your unconscious wearing skin to scream truths you are determined to silence. In Jungian language, projection is when we pour onto the other all that we are incapable of recognizing in ourselves. It is when we fall in love with someone who lives freely the things we secretly wish we had the courage to live. It is when we see in the other the freedom, the passion, the boldness we stifle to fit into that lukewarm life we call stability. Look at that impossible person and ask yourself, what makes me ignite in them? Perhaps it is their carefree laughter. Perhaps the way they throw themselves into the world without fear of rejection. Perhaps the depth in their eyes as if they could hear even what you never said out loud. All of that is yours, not theirs. They only reflect. They are the mirror your unconscious placed in front of you so that you could see once and for all that there is still a flame beneath your gray routine skin. The truth is that every projection is a cry of self-knowledge drowned out. It is as if your soul said, look who you could be if you stop sabotaging yourself. But it hurts, right? Because while the mirror shows, it also frustrates. You touch it, you do not possess it. You kiss it, but it does not stay. And then confusion begins. You think the other is the solution, that only by their side will you feel complete again? Nonsense, darling. Jung would smile sideways. They are not your savior. They are your messenger. They did not come to fill your voids. They came to show you where they are. What you do after that is your decision. Some run away, block, ignore, rush into lukewarm relationships to pretend that wound does not exist. Others embrace the pain like an addiction, mentally reliving every word, every laugh, every touch. They feed the absence as if it were fuel to feel alive, even if it is a life made of nostalgia. But there is another path, the rarest path, the path of those who understand that loving someone impossible is actually loving oneself for the first time, but not yet knowing how. It is looking into Jung's mirror and instead of trying to break it or steal its image, deciding to become what it reflects. Think about living that person you buried within yourself. The courage to say no, the impulse to laugh loudly even if the world tells you to be quiet, the passion that makes blood boil in every choice. Now in silence, promise yourself, I do not need them to do that. I only need myself. Jung spoke of the self, that sacred core within each one that cries out to be lived fully. Every deep encounter is a key. Every pain the other causes is a door. You decide whether to open it or stay asleep, pretending you have nothing to discover. Perhaps the great irony of life is this. Someone impossible arrives to teach you to be possible. You spend sleepless nights wishing for the other when you should be spending them building yourself. And you know what? That is the greatest revenge you can have against an absence. Transforming what was pain into potential, becoming so whole that one day, when you remember that smile, you will not think, I needed them to be happy, but I needed them to awaken who I always was. Jung's mirror does not lie, and it is there, shining in the form of a face you cannot kiss at will. Use it well, because if you have the courage to see what it reflects, you will never be the same. There are pains that tear, and there are pains that sow. Impossible love does both at the same time. It breaks you into 1,000 pieces and still leaves you more complete than you were before. Strange, isn't it? But that is how the universe teaches what you would never dare to learn on your own. When someone burns inside you without being able to inhabit your routine, you are forced to know a way of loving that most people will never experience. Love without possession, without control, without promises. A love that exists to open space, not to occupy it. Jung understood this kind of pain as something sacred. It is not a punishment, but an initiation. A wound that, instead of killing, makes you stronger, more lucid, more wild inside. A kind of courage that cannot be bought with worn self-help phrases. Look closely. What hurts is not the absence of the person. It is the destruction of the illusions you fed about love. We grow up believing that to love is to have someone, to hold on tight, to build plans, to ensure presence. But then life spits that in your face. If you've made it this far, I want you to know that you're a warrior. And by staying on this path, you'll connect with your higher self and become a better person every single day. So if this resonates with you, go ahead and hit subscribe, give this video a like, and tap the bell so you won't miss any of these insights that are here to help you grow. Thanks for being part of the Being of Knowledge family. Unexpectedly, and you find yourself forced to love without having, to love knowing you will not have, to love accepting that sometimes loving means letting go. It hurts like 1,000 demons, but it heals because this pain does what no comfortable relationship does. It digs deep, it destroys the superficial, it shows you who you are when you are stripped of guarantees. Look at yourself now. You are reading this because you miss, because your chest aches, because your mind relives every detail, every touch that perhaps never even happened. You do not want to let go, I know. But listen to me. Not letting go is not going to bring them back. It is only going to chain you. So allow yourself to break. Cry as much as you need. Scream into your pillow. Say you hate the universe for this filthy irony. Say you will never love again. Say you will never trust again. And then, in silence, listen to your heart. See what remains when all hope of possession dissolves. You remain. You remain without masks, without a script, raw, torn, pulsating. And that version of you is the most beautiful because it depends on no one to exist. Believe me, loving someone impossible is not loving less. It is loving deeper. It is proving that your love does not need a contract, nor a promise, nor a couple's routine to be real. It is showing that your love is so vast it survives absence and even feeds on it to grow. Perhaps that is the secret almost no one understands. Impossible love does not destroy your capacity to love. It destroys your capacity to love badly. After surviving this, you no longer accept crumbs. You do not settle for halves. You do not fit into lukewarm relationships. You become someone too large to fit into anything small. And paradoxically, that is where healing settles. When you stop begging for the other and start thanking the wound, because you understand that it was she who pushed you out of the gray zone where you survived but did not live. Carl Jung said that our greatest wounds are also our greatest sources of light. You do not need to believe it now, just remember this. When nostalgia squeezes so much it seems unbearable, breathe, feel, do not run from the pain, and realize that every tear that falls is a part of you dying to make way for something more alive. Yes, impossible love breaks, but darling, it also heals. And whoever survives this never returns the same. They return more wild, more authentic, more whole. So do not fear the pain. Fear a life without feeling anything as real as this. Before continuing with the next topic, we have a quick message, perhaps the most important in this video. Have you ever felt stuck even though you try to change? Have you noticed that no matter how many books you read, videos you watch, effort you make, something invisible keeps pulling you back into the same patterns? Well, listen closely. This is not accidental, and it has an explanation. Researchers and scholars have recently rediscovered a mental transformation model used for centuries by philosophers, strategists, and thinkers who changed the course of history. A silent but incredibly effective method that combines science, psychology, and ancestral wisdom, and that to this day very few people know. Those who have applied it describe it as if a key turned inside. Clarity, discipline, a stronger identity. As if for the first time they really had control of their own mind. If you want to know more about this, pause the video right now, point your phone's camera at the QR code on the screen, and discover for yourself what it is. Or if you prefer, click the link in the first pinned comment below. Now take a deep breath and confess to yourself. Absence hurts more in silent days, when no one sees, when the phone vibrates and it is not that person. It is in those invisible intervals that nostalgia seeps into your bones, right? One memory bites another, a forgotten scent haunts the pillow, and suddenly you feel like a child again, defenseless before a void you do not know how to name. But listen to this whisper. What remains after the other leaves is what was always yours, the love that was not in presence but in you. The pain of absence is not only losing someone, it is confronting all you swallowed in silence to survive. Forbidden desires, dreams tucked away, parts of you locked up so as not to bother anyone. Carl Jung would say, "It is here, right here in the middle of that throbbing hole, where the most valuable seat of your psyche lives." Individuation is the pain that pushes the soul inward, with no escape. It is life demanding you return to the world what you once buried to fit the molds of those who always expected little of you. So stop now. Stop telling yourself you lost the great love of your life. You lost no one. You lost the fantasy that you needed someone to be complete. And losing a lie, though it hurts like a stab, is always a gain. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine everything that fascinated you. Someone out of touch with reality, because thinking dismantles narratives, and narratives are the food of organized stupidity. But there is something even more disturbing. Thinking today is not only difficult, it is dangerous. Have you noticed how certain ideas cannot even be mentioned without the crowd reacting as if it were a crime? Have you realized how the righteous discourse has become a new moral tribunal, where there is no room for nuance, context, or ambiguity? We live in a time when the greatest heresy is independent thinking, where thought has become transgression, where the search for truth has been replaced by the need for social validation. And resisting this has a price. You will lose followers. You will be misunderstood. Maybe canned, you will be lonelier, more restless, more uncomfortable. But you will also be free, authentic, unbreakable. Because when you reclaim your autonomy of thought, no one can chain you again. Bonhoeffer understood this from prison. He knew thinking was dangerous, but he also knew not thinking is fatal. And now you know it too. You have made it this far, and that already puts you outside the average because this content is not easy. It does not give quick fixes. It does not offer you an external enemy to hate. It points at you at the place where the most effective stupidity usually hides the comfort zone of your mind. What Bonhoeffer left us was not just a warning, it was a choice. He showed us that stupidity, when it settles in, does not need weapons. It only needs silence, repetition, unexamined, good intentions, and good people who become agents of evil, unknowingly, simply because they stop thinking for themselves. And what do we have left? We have resistance thinking, questioning even when it makes us unpopular, especially when it makes us unpopular. Rescuing thought is no longer a virtue, it is an act of intellectual survival. Because in these times, maintaining lucidity is an act of disobedience and critical conscience. The last free territory in a society that has even commercialized your mind. So the final question is not whether you understood Bonhoeffer's theory. The real question is, are you willing to pay the price of remaining lucid in a world that rewards stupidity because now you know, and knowing has a price. But there is something more dangerous than paying that price. Pretending you did not hear this call, going back to sleep with the illusion that you are still the one thinking. Awakening is uncomfortable. But staying anesthetized is the real risk. Do not hide. Do not return this awareness. It is yours. And maybe it is the only thing you truly have left. If this message resonated with you, if it made you think, if it made you question yourself, then don't leave it there. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share this video with someone who is ready to wake up, because free thought needs echoes, and you can be that echo. To say that if you made it this far, you will understand why they are the next step your soul wants to take. And in case no one told you today, you are not alone. You never were, and you no longer need to lose yourself to feel loved. Until the next whisper, take good care of yourself. If this message resonated with you, if you felt something within you awaken, don't stop here. Subscribe to the Being of Knowledge, and become part of a community of silent strategists, of awakened minds who no longer fall for masks. Like this video if it brought you clarity, and share it with those who also need to open their eyes. Because true power begins with one decision: to never be the same again. Thank you for watching.